So I think first up has to be a huge shout out to Brian and the team, right? Will we give them a hell yeah? Woo! Unbelievable. You know, one of the joys of doing this is you get to go all over the world and meet fabulous people like yourselves. But to be in a venue like this is even more special, I think. And, you know, we're one of the first people to be in here and do an event like this, so it's been amazing. You know, he was kind enough many months ago to send me an email and say, you know, we'd love to sort of create a conference around the inspiration behind Lean Enterprise. And so what I thought I'd do is share a little bit of a fun reflection maybe over the last 10 years. Some of the things that surprised me about what changed, some of the things, you know, that I think everyone in this room can be really proud of, that we managed to move our industry forward together. And then maybe some of the things that are still frustrating us a little bit. And then just for fun, let's talk a little bit about what the next 10 years might look like. Does that sound like fun? Woo! All right, and surprise, surprise, there'll be lots of chance for audience participation as we go along, all right? But I did want to start with some of the things I think everybody in this room should be incredibly proud of. You know, one thing, it's always an honor to use these sort of ideas as a lightning rod to inspire people, but it's everyone in this room that moves our industry forward. You're out there in some of the most difficult sort of environments, if you will, trying to advocate for a better way of working. And, you know, I know it's frustrating. I know it can feel sometimes it's 2 steps forward and 1 step back, but you're making a lot of progress, and you're making it not just better for people that are around you, but you're making it better for the next set of people that come along and the next set of people. So that's what moves us forward, you know. And some of the things that have really struck me, and I think I've heard this again and again and again, is even this idea of experimentation. Like, I remember in sort of 2012 when we started to incept this idea of what Lean Enterprise could be, talking about experimentation actually felt a bit like you were some weird scientist, you know, with a white coat on, locked in a room. And yet today, and nearly in every single talk that I heard over the 3 days, people were talking about creating new knowledge by trying new actions and behaviors to create new information. And that is something that really has propagated everywhere. It's almost at the point now, if you're not actively experimenting, you know, you're going backwards. And that wasn't an idea we had 10 years ago. Similarly, this idea of busting up the project mentality and getting into this product mentality. You know, Amazon were still at this time, they were not even really talking or starting to talk about this idea of 2 pizza teams. Small cross-functional teams that were connected with customers, that were building fast and getting rapid feedback cycles, you know. And in the talk I gave at the beginning, like, I still remember sitting down, this is a hilarious story, I sat down with Rich and his team, this executive group for Capital One. They were sitting there going, what's the ideal construct for a team? And it was really funny. One of the executives went, oh, I've been building teams my whole life. I'm going to go off into a room and design what the ideal team looks like, and then I'll come back, and then I'll tell the whole company, this is what the ideal team will work like. And people will have to move from Washington to San Francisco. And I was like, geez, this is crazy. And 3 of the executives were like, no, no, no. We're going to go out and interview everybody who's working in these teams to ask them, what do they think is the most optimal construction of their team? I'll let you guess who you think came up with a better answer. Right, but these are things that really started to happen. And, you know, other things we should be really proud of. I've written leaner portfolio management, but even these concepts of, you know, big multi-year, big projects, big budgets, big teams, that was the flavor of the day. And yet, I think if anyone starts to hear the notion of multi-year project, $100 million, hundreds of people, in this room, they probably start shuddering. You know, so this idea of adaptive, smaller bets, working faster, running these sort of sessions where you have like amazing teams coming together, to think about a portfolio of different classes of work. When we're building new products, should we have small little cross-functional teams with a small little budget to see if there's something there to even worth keep building, versus running your sort of business as usual systems of record? Like, this portfolio approach to product development, again, is radically different than the one-size-fits-all mentality that was pretty much everywhere. And this is hilarious for me to think about this, DORA. So in 2015, I quit my job in ThoughtWorks in London and moved to San Francisco to start a company with Jez. And Jez and Nicole were like writing with Gene Kim, the DevOps, or DORA, what became the DevOps assessment. They were building this little tool that was at the time in a spreadsheet, which is hilarious. And they used to go around asking people all these questions, and Nicole was building this model. But again, all I've heard over the last couple of days is now people thinking of this as the benchmark for high-performance engineering organizations. You know, and that auditability is a great step forward for what we're thinking about really tracking things. Around the same time, these are just flashback photos for fun. Does anyone know who that person is on the left? You might recognize the side of Jez's head, but does anyone recognize the other guy? No? So that's John Allspaw. And John Allspaw, you can probably accredit and blame for starting the DevOps movement. He did a talk in I think it was around 2011, at one of the O'Reilly Web Summits, where he had this talk called 10 Deployments in One Day. And people went to that talk thinking that it was going to be a load of BS. Like, how could somebody do that? John's first job was at a company called Friendster. Does anyone remember that? Yeah? And then after that, he went on to work at a company called Flickr. Does anyone remember that one? Right? And then, and this idea that was so important, and I'd really encourage you all to follow John's work today. He was the person who really advocated this idea of safety and speed in software development, that we wanted to be fast, but we wanted to be safe. He went to Lund University and studied this sort of human factors and safety management course. One of the first engineers I ever knew who did that. He was in rooms with like physicians and doctors and people building huge infrastructure projects, trying to learn about resilient systems, because he recognized that software was getting so complicated that it was impossible for us to understand the system. And that we actually, instead of trying to simplify things, we had to recognize that, no, everything was going to only get more complex. And what we had to learn how to do was manage complex adaptive systems. And that means that nobody knows all the information. And you need to create systems to monitor how the system is performing and seeing if it operates within the bounds that you want it to, if it's a safe system. And these were like revolutionary ideas at the time. This is sort of about probably 13, when we went to visit John in Etsy. And you know, his whole team were dreaming about these ideas of building resilient systems, but also understanding human factors. So this notion of blameless postmortems, where people would sit there and ask, how did this happen, rather than whose fault was this? And the power of asking those questions, like how did this happen, is that you started to look at the work management systems and realized, how did the system create a bad outcome? And how could we improve the system to drive towards better outcomes, not the person? You know, and these are things that you might think about a lot about today. Like Stephen talked a lot about this today, about work systems and managing to better similar inputs, but better outputs. These were sort of the beginnings of these ideas, right? So today, you know, it's amazing to see how far that thinking has moved forward. So it's always fun, you know, to get the audience participation. I thought I might give you a chance, from the 5 things we've selected today, What strikes you as maybe the thing that you're thinking as an industry? Remember, you all did this. I just basically, go give talks and open supermarkets these days. So what strikes you as the things that you think maybe you're more proud of that as an industry we've achieved? You know, it gets so exciting for me. I'm like, dun, 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 dun. It's like a horse race again. Come on, who's going to win? I should write something down up here, and then I can guess what's going to win, and I'll show my card at the end, and you can all put yours in, right? Cool. All right, we'll share all these at the end. But like, just poor old Esther. Is there no site reliability engineers in here? No? One guy, there's one person did the T-Rex arm and just stuck it up and sort of waved. So you're safe here, man. Don't worry, I got you. There you go. There's one vote for yourself. You're allowed that. Right, but then there's also, this group I know is masters of excellence and care a lot about the things that I think still lack progress. And for me, this is one of my, I suppose, pet peeves, is, I think we still struggle with the bureaucracy of innovation. This is from Karen's talk about value stream mapping. This is my favorite version of what most companies are doing. Annual water safe can Scrum ban delivery ops. Where, you've people still working in these massive silos. And, it's a frustration, right? Because we, as Karen talked a lot about flow and speed and the end-to-end systems of work. And yet many of the teams still talking about agile in such a small context is a bit of a killer. I think we're still trapped in short-term thinking about how we make investment decisions. One of the fun things about writing Lean Enterprise is we have to go and get like industry reports. My favorite report we did was, how do companies make investment decisions? And the first one was this idea of a committee comes up with from potential options. So basically we make stuff up. Financial modeling, about 13% did that. Person with the highest paid opinion, basically the hippo decides. In order for it to be a valid study, you need 5 options. So we put in a product portfolio approach because it just sounded good. 9% of people said they did that. And then people who said they have no systematic approach, 7%. So what we learned was 7% of people tell the truth and everybody else is making stuff up. But again, it shows you, and this is again what Doug was talking about, Doug Hubbard, about using even simpler models and probabilistic thinking to challenge our ways of thinking, how effective that can be, and we're still not doing it. Too many transformations fail, right? So it was funny, I was sitting in the audience earlier, and I was like, wow, everyone's trying to transform, but still we have these sort of horrendous success rates of like less than 10% in some instances. And it was funny, whenever I did the search for how many transformations fail, and like McKinsey and BGC come up, and then I keep thinking, how many of those consultants are working on these transformations and they're still getting these bad results? Maybe there's a conflict of incentives there. And then one of the things we talked a lot about in the culture chapter, and Ed, I think, really was hammering this home with his experience at NASA, is, when we wrote the book in 2015, this idea of how engaged people were in their work, like 18% being actively disengaged in their work, really sort of irked me. That was one of the things I was really sort of pissed off about the workplace. And I still see that we're struggling to move beyond this, and when you think about when Ed was giving his talk, and this is a guy who, spent 30, 40 years in NASA, and he looks like he's just about to start his first day with so much excitement when he talks about the passion he has for that work. Like, why don't more people get to experience that, I think is a huge one for me. And then, apart from laughing most of my way through Alistair's talk about the perversion of metrics in the world, I think this is a huge problem for us still, right? We're still counting things. How many story points did we do? How many hours did we put into something, rather than thinking about like the actionable metrics that are driving behavior change? And that's one of the things I've heard in so many of these talks here, is like, how can we get good at describing outcomes, measuring outcomes? And to be honest, when we worked at Capital One, that was the thing that was the scariest part for people, is showing your work, measuring against outcomes, because it's so much more comfortable to measure how many story points you did, or how many features you did, how much output you created, rather than outcome, you know, and so we've got to embrace it. So again, pop quiz. Here's your chance to vote. I'm going to pick one. I'm not going to tell you until you pick. All right, get your votes in. Vanity Metrics is making a quick break for it. Yeah, bureaucracy's losing. Oh, not empowered. Yeah. I love seeing which ones. I feel like we should play some like Benny Hill music or something like that. All right, I love it. Vanity Metrics. It's a pretty clear winner on that, and bureaucracy making its way. Hang on, that's it, hang on. That's kind of ironic, as bureaucracy just charges up as soon as we get towards the end of this. It's like, hang on, let's have a committee. We need a committee meeting to vote on this before we move forward. All right, fun. It's always fun to do these things. You know, some of the stuff, I guess, that's really surprised me, and again, I'm going to ask you all this. Like, and this is an exciting time, right? The AI software development, particularly in the last 18 months, is just blowing my mind, right? The tools that we're now starting to get to build this software, co-pilots, whether you're writing code, you're sort of using GPTs for transformations. I have a venture studio. We're trying to do 100 companies in 5 years. And so much of it is reliant on us using tools of this ilk to do rapid prototyping, customer testing. It's like, you know, it's as fun a time to be building software as ever. Cloud everywhere. Again, I still remember in 2010 when Jez put out continuous delivery, and like people literally thought we were crazy, saying that you could do 1,000 deployments a day. Banks thought we were nuts when you said you should run your infrastructure in the cloud. And again, how much that has flipped. Remote work. So Rise 8 is an example, right? Everybody's distributed. Everyone's distributed in our venture studio. We've people in 17 countries across nearly every time zone. The sun never sets on us. It's a fascinating time to be building in this way, access to talent in places of the world, giving people economic opportunity that never would have had it to be anywhere. It's amazing. And all these no-code tools, as they start to sort of, you know, really become fun things where you don't have to be a deep technical person to just get some of the benefits of technology in your work, I think is fascinating for everybody out there. But we're still stuck with one of the, I think, the biggest hypocrisies of all time. Thanks for the clap. I got $5 for you. How good is this? I was like finding this meme. I was like, wow, this actually exists. SAFE is an agile framework for lean enterprises. I would like to say that is not true. You know, like, this is the thing. Like, we do have to be careful of people, you know, trying to make money out of, you know, rubber stamping things. You know, and I just think the work that you're all doing to like really drive change is about finding great patterns and practices that work and sharing them with one another, you know, and that's sort of the power of the conference. I'm sure you're all leaving with great ideas from one another about what you've heard a different team do, some of the speakers share. You know, like that's the power for me of sharing stories, sharing information, building relationships, building knowledge again, as Ed said, and not certifying more Scrum maniacs or becoming enterprise safe gurus or whatever they are these days. All right, so the last one, and then we're going to get some of your thoughts as well. 5 hopes for the next 10 years. Has anyone got some hopes they want to shout out in advance before I share mine? Who's got a hope for the next 10 years about how our industry is going to change? Are you looking forward to Enterprise Safe when it comes out? Yes. Enterprise Safe 5. Hopefully that comes out soon. 6, exactly. It's going to be better. You know, I just think one of the things that I personally am fascinated about is how we're going to use these tools to get better, faster, cheaper, quicker, even more. I don't know if any of you are using tools, but some of the practices I used to do on my daily work that would take me a day, like it used to take me a day to write a blog. Now, if I can't write a blog in about 45 minutes, I kind of panic because I've built all these tools around me to help me automate so many of the back-end work with it. Simple things, like I have a meeting, I have a co-pilot meeting with me. We have the meeting, it's running. At the end of that, I download the transcript. I have a structure that I want GPT to output the meeting in. It uploads the file, the transcript file, asks it to recalibrate it in the structure of meeting notes that I like to take. It sends me, creates a Google Doc for me to review. I hit put that in email, and then I send out meeting notes typically about 3 minutes after a meeting. Some people think it's actually weird because they're in meetings with me and then I send them these perfectly crafted meeting notes in like 3 minutes. And they're like, did you just pre-plan the whole meeting and I was just like totally like Jedi mind tricked? But you know, these are the kind of efficiencies that you're going to start seeing. I think owning your own data, you know, it's so hot right now, you know. There's just a very interesting time, right? Folks here are obviously working with very sensitive, very important information and it being protected. And how that propagates into our own daily lives. You know, we're being monetized in ways we don't even realize yet. And how that's going to shift, I think, is something I think is really, really important. This is me trying to look like some guy from the future. This is like one of the Google Eye things. It's kind of weird. But one of the things I think is really fascinating is this idea of real-time, real context mentoring and learning when you're doing new tasks. And maybe some of you are familiar with Pluralsight or these types of businesses where you can sort of on-demand go and get training if you're trying to write JavaScript. So many of the products we're building in our studio are things like machines that only 5 engineers in the world know how to fix. So we're building these learning tools that, you know, early stage operators can learn how to fix really expensive machinery in real time, in context, by just understanding problems and being guided. I think this is going to be fascinating. My big hope is that we get to the end of burnout culture. This is my favorite one. It's only 6 hours, 40 minutes, and 35 years until I'm done with work. Does anyone dream of that each day? I feel like that some days. It's normally Tuesday, I feel like this. But it's a passion for many people, right? And I think as we get more and more automation into every part of our aspect of our work, we should be able to get to focus on things that we really use our real creativity for. And spending more of our time in the creativity and less of our time in the sort of repeatable tasks that we can automate. And then probably the thing I'm most excited about is I just think it's becoming so cheap, so lower barriers, with such a bigger audience out there. It really is some of the best times in the world that anybody can pursue their dream of having an idea for a business or starting something or finding a group of people that care about a niche or a problem that you care about and you wanna try and fix, you know? And this is sort of, for me, probably one of the biggest promises that technology offers through creativity, sharing of knowledge, and relationships, as Ed said, is that we're gonna get to build some pretty amazing things. When we launched our venture studio, we did an equity crowdfunding. It means that you didn't have to be a high net worth individual. You could invest in our studio if you were like a bus driver, a doctor, or a VC. It didn't matter. We got 1,000 investors in 55 different countries around the world. 50% of the investments were $100. And all these people now own part of our venture studio. And they're bringing ideas, they're building things, they want to contribute. And it's it's amazing, you know? So these are some of the things I think that are exciting. So I have two little things left to ask. One, what are some of your hopes? Like, throw it into the chat. Let's build a world cloud. And like, I'd love to hear some of the things that you're excited about. Yeah, you know, all of the things that are starting to come online and what could be different. Yeah, the next horizon. OSS interoperability, great. AI friendly. Lean Enterprise, and yeah, 2.0, I don't know. We're never going to write another book, just in case anyone wants to ask. We made a commitment that we would write it once and then let you all write a better book in a few years' time. So hopefully someone's in the audience that's going to do that. Yeah, it's pretty fun to just sort of see these kind of things that people are thinking about and excited about. And, you know, it's a great time to be part of this. There's one last little exercise I love to do with people, especially when they've been at a conference for a couple of days. And it's a really simple exercise that if you have a bit of paper in front of you, or you can do it in your mind, it doesn't matter. But it's a little bit of a mindset question that I like to ask people, just to help you understand maybe how much your thinking has evolved over the last 3 days. And it sort of goes like this. I want you to think of this little statement. I used to think, insert word here. Now I think, insert word here. Right? Have a little reflection over the last 3 days, or maybe something that when you came here, you used to think X, but now you think Y. I'm going to invite you all to do that little exercise and write it down. And when you've done that, I'd encourage you to turn to the person beside you and tell them what you wrote down. I'll give you a minute to share with each other. I used to think safe was amazing. Now I think it's really amazing. Come on, tell your friend, it's okay. They've been there too. All right. The counter has told me that I have hit 0 and the light is red. That means someone is going to come out with a coat hanger. Listen, you know, it's a tough job that we're all doing out here, but you really are making a dent in the universe and changing the way things happen. I love this quote that you can't go back and change the beginning, but you can start where you are and change the ending. So I want to just you know, show a lot of appreciation and gratitude to all the work you're doing out there. It's really having an impact. I want to thank the Rise 8 team, Brian and everybody for putting on really a stellar event. And I look forward to coming back in not 10 years, hopefully a bit before that again, to share some more stories with you. But you know, thank you very much and have a fantastic rest of your afternoon and party conference, all right? Take it easy.